So before you can even get started making a material list or pricing out a project to see if it's something that's going to be worth doing yourself or just hiring somebody to do, you need to have a plan of what you want to do. Some sort of idea. I typically have an idea in my head of what I want to do, but until I put it to paper, um, I'm not going to know exactly how much material to use or what tweaks I'm going to need to make. Uh, and personally, I like using paper. Just do two different views instead of three views. Sometimes I'll do the side view, but for the majority of the time, top view and front view or top view and side view will be enough. Um, and for this one, what I did, I deviated a little bit from what was originally designed on this, because in this third section is where I have all of the sprinkler control valves for the entire yard. And I didn't want to pull those all out and reroute all that, so I just ended up doing the two section. So instead of being 36 by 14, it's 24 by 14. Still plenty of area, but yeah. So the most important thing to figure out is where my posts were going to go. And I had three different sections, which actually the ends ended up being a little different because the availability of the cedar in the lengths that I wanted, not quite as what I would have planned for, but adjust and overcome. So this was the plan. Didn't quite go that way, but the main intent of this is to help you lay out exactly what materials you're going to need and where everything's going to be positioned once you get it started. Part of the reason for that is I'm actually using 6x6 blocks on the trim as pavers, and the 6x6 post is going to fit square in where one of the blocks would go. You'll see when I did this project that actually Lowe's ran out of these 6x6 blocks, so I couldn't purchase enough to do this center area. So what I did was I ended up just cutting out the blocks there to make that work. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, and at the end I will give you some pricing comparisons of total cost to do the pergola versus what quotes came back at to have someone professionally build the pergola for me. So first thing I did was dug the holes for the posts. These here are about 26.5 inches deep. These three that are closest to the house. And that's, from finished grade. And then these down here are actually about 24 inches deep. Because the grade actually tapers off and slopes out toward the yard. So I'm going to be making this all level. The grade's going to be coming up a little bit in this area, so not too worried about that. I'm going to be adding about 1.5 inches to the grade and taking a little bit off on this side, because the pavers that I'm going to be doing are actually going to end up sitting flat with this house slab. So next step I'm going to be doing is laying out exactly where the posts need to end up going, lined out. I pretty much just did this with the tape measure off the slab here to get the distance off the house, and measured the space between the holes to figure out where it needs to go. So yesterday it was raining pretty good on and off. Didn't do a video in an effort to actually get this done in between spurts of rain. As you can see, I put down some forms and actually used some string line to mark where the corners of the posts are going to go. And I already got one of them up there this morning. I put a piece of wood in the hole so that when I'm putting the post in there, since I'm doing this on my own, it didn't knock out a corner of the hole and we need to clean out some dirt. So I need to be pretty precise with the location of the posts. First of all, because the pergola layout overhead needs to be right, And secondly, because this is actually going to be in the place of one of these little 6x6 blocks. So need to be accurate within about a quarter of an inch, since this is a 6x6 post. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of these in there. What I'm probably gonna try and do is put these two posts here, which I'll then connect the beam between the two of them, and then I'll do the concrete in the hole. Same thing with these two, same thing with these two, and then we'll let the concrete set and go from there. So it's the next day. I've got all 6 of the posts in place and they're pretty well set. I've started with one set of the beams and moving on to the second one. What I'm doing is basically using a string line with the level to level this out. Make sure everything's the same elevation. And then I'm using the same method here to put 2 blocks with clamps on either side, and then I pretty much just balance the 2x8s on that. And I use a 4-foot level to get it exact and just kind of tap them down as needed. And it gets it pretty close, and you can just tap it enough and then drill them into place with some screws. For the top pieces, I pretty much just put a screw on either side, going in at the angle. Yeah, going downward, probably about a 45-degree angle, and it seems to hold them pretty sturdy in place. And then for the centers, just did going kind of 2 from either piece of one from either piece of wood, going at the angles there. And now I'm going through and just taking the tops off of these. What I'm doing with this, I'm using just a trim saw to kind of get it flush. Then I'm going to go back in and use a Japanese pull saw to get the remainder of that done. So, yeah. For the next part, which is getting the carriage bolts in, I pretty much just took 2 pieces of 2x6, screwed them together, used my drill press to drill 4 3/8 inch holes about where I want them on there, to kind of help keep it straight. And I'm going to be using an 18-inch 3/8 inch bit to get through there. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, fingers crossed it goes straight. To finish this out, I went through and sanded every one of these down with the orbital sander, and then stained them, including the columns. It took quite a bit of work. If I ever did this again, I would definitely recommend sanding them while they're on the ground before you put it together. And you can stain it in place. That wasn't really that hard, but you could also stain the pieces on the ground. You might give it a little better seal because you can get the ends that butt against each other. But honestly, it didn't turn out bad. I put these little cross supports in here, using just 2x4 pieces of cedar. Figured at some point I might come back and either put a rail in there that we can do some curtains along the outside for kind of wind blocking or mosquito netting, or maybe just do some of those sunshade rollers, kind of tuck them up away in there. And yeah, that's pretty much all there was to it. At some point I do want to go back and add some electrical to this, because as you can see at this point I've just got extension cords running, a little bug zapper over there, and then the lights. So probably add some outlets in the corners and go from there. So there you have it. So here's a list of the items I used in this project. A few miscellaneous items, just screws and some sandpaper and things I didn't think necessary to mention or include in the final cost of the project. The total cost of the project was about $2,000, and the prices that people have been getting for contractors for things like this is about 5 to 12,000. So your savings from doing it yourself is between 3 and 10. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content like this, consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching How It's Done.